My name is Nuala Elwood and I'm a novelist. I came to York St John in 2009. We actually moved up from London with my little boy, who's now 10, to do an MA in creative writing here. It proved to be one of the best decisions of my life, really. I had a nugget of an idea for a novel that I'd put off, and studying here for a part-time MA, in my case, in the evenings, really helped to shape my work. The staff were working as either novelists, poets, playwrights, and that had an enormous impact, because not only did it kind of inspire you in terms of that's what you could go on to do, but they knew what was happening within the industry, which is an ever-changing industry, publishing. One of the first things an agent or editor will want to know is, where do you sit in the market? What genre do you see yourself as? And I think that helps enormously. You've got the duration of the MA to work out who you are as a writer, what your voice is and where you see yourself. And I think that was primarily a brilliant thing. At the end of the course, I had a novel finished, and I had the idea for the novel that would go on to be My Sister's Bones, which is my current novel that's currently published by Penguin. My Sister's Bones it tells a story of a female war reporter called Kate, who has returned from covering the war in Syria after the death of her mother. She comes back to her hometown in Herne Bay on the North Kent coast, and on her first night back in her childhood home, she starts to hear things, screams coming from next door. But then one night she sees what she thinks is a child, a little boy, in the garden, and she's convinced that something really bad is happening in the house next door. So the whole story is about war and about the effects that it can have on the psyche, and do we trust Kate's word? She's a journalist who's spent 15 years covering atrocities, and it's really taken its toll. Is what she's seeing real, or is it a strange trick of the eye? And so that's what we're left to work out. It was published by Penguin this year in February 2017, and it's had some fantastic responses. It's been sold into 10 territories. It was out in the US in July. The film options have been sold, but I can't say anything more about that, which is really awful, because I'm really bad at keeping secrets, but I can't say anything yet, but it will be all announced quite soon, which is really brilliant and very exciting. There are highs and lows throughout the career of being a writer, and I think that's something that doing an MA in creative writing can help in some way prepare you for. There are lots of rejections all along the way. Right from the very beginning, it doesn't stop. You can get an agent and think that's the end result, that's fantastic, it's wonderful, but then whether or not your agent can get you a publishing deal, that's another bit of uncertainty to get through. But with the tutors at York St John, a lot of them are published and practicing writers, so they've kind of all gone through that, and that's where their advice is invaluable for potential writers, definitely. The book that changed my life, I would have to say, is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. It's the most wonderful evocation of a whole life condensed into 24 hours. So we follow the story of Mrs. Dalloway as she plans her party, and running alongside that is the story of a war veteran who is suffering horrendous shell shock, and their lives cross in the most poignant and wonderful way. And I must have read it about 100 times, but it's something about Virginia Woolf. A lot of people have writers who they admire or love, but there's something about Virginia Woolf's writing that speaks to something much deeper in me, and I think she's kind of part of my soul. And Mrs. Dalloway is definitely my go-to book before I start writing. Most days I'll look at some of Virginia Woolf's writing just to get me going. But Mrs. Dalloway, I think, is the one that I would say definitely made me want to be a writer and changed my life. Top tip for writers: read and read and read, definitely. Also be selfish with your time, because a lot of writers, particularly before they're published or when they're writing alongside university work or families or a full-time job, it's very, very difficult to set aside some time to write. And I think that so many times you can make lots of excuses not to do it, and it can seem quite daunting. But I think if you have an allocated pocket of time, it doesn't even have to be very long, that is absolutely yours solely for writing, even if it means going somewhere else, because I'm very keen on going into the places where the book is set. You know, go off on retreats if you can, if possible. But even if you can't do that, just fence off your time. Say, this is my writing time, and be strict with yourself, and gradually it'll become something bigger.